I'm going to make some remarks that I put together this morning at about 3 o'clock this morning. Alina can attest to that. So, distinguished scholars, colleagues, and friends, as we draw this 2.5-day journey of intellectual exploration to a close, I am filled with gratitude and awe for the vibrant tapestry of ideas we have woven together at this second Exodus and Transdisciplinary Perspective Conference. Over the past few days, we have traversed the boundaries of archaeology, history, Egyptology, geoscience, computer science, and cyber-archaeology, all united by a shared quest to understand one of the most enduring narratives in human history, the Exodus. In terms of cyber-archaeology, we have seen how AI is helping us to visualize and analyze ancient historical narratives, like the Exodus, in new and exciting ways. The Exodus narrative is not merely a text, it is a crucible of identity, faith, and memory that has shaped the religious, cultural, and literary traditions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. As our keynote speaker, Richard Elliott Friedman, argues in his book, The Exodus narrative reflects an historical event involving a smaller group, likely the Levites, who were influenced by their origins among the nomadic Shasu tribes in Midian, carrying the worship of Yahweh to Israel. He suggests this group's experience of liberation from Egypt shaped the biblical account, which later became a unifying national story. Obviously, as a Levite myself, I love this theory. New archaeological research by Erez Ben Yosef in Timna, and my work with Mohammed Najjar in Jordan's Feinan district shed new light on the Shasu nomads that may be part of the Exodus story. As of last night, what was missing in our conference was a discussion on the origin and character of God in ancient Israel, that is, El and Yahweh, and how these factor into the formation of ancient Israel and the Exodus narrative. I'm thinking of Theodore Lewis's magistral The Origin and Character of God, and Daniel Fleming's Yahweh Before Israel, who both dive deep into the Shasu nomads. The conference discussions have reaffirmed the importance of transdisciplinary research laid out in our first Exodus conference, while also challenging us to interrogate the interplay of myth, memory, and materiality in new and profound ways. Our speakers have brought extraordinary depth to this dialogue, from explorations of Egyptological evidence for the sojourn in and out of Egypt to comparative studies of sacred artifacts, such as the Ark of the Covenant and Egyptian records. We have seen how textual and material cultures intersect. Papers addressing the historicity of the Exodus have grappled with the absence of direct archaeological traces, echoing the sentiment that, like Homer's Odyssey, the Exodus may not leave conventional marks in the archaeological record, but profoundly shapes cultural landscapes. The transdisciplinary spirit of this conference has been its heartbeat. Geoscientists have debated the volcanic thera theory and weighing natural phenomena such as tsunami mechanisms Eastern Mediterranean wind and dust systems, the identification of watersheds and geopolitical territories for ethnogenesis, and more against narrative traditions. This was highlighted in the papers of Brad Sparks, Michael Lazar, Yigal Erel, Steve Ward, Carl Drews, Mark Harris, Stephen Mosier, and Jim Hoffmeyer, Gilad Steinberg, Deborah Hearn, and Zach Dunseth's micro-geoarchaeological approaches. We had a wide range of archaeological presentations from prehistorians, biblical archaeologists, and Egyptologists, exploring many topics rooted in hard archaeological data. Sometimes biblical scholars joined in these debates. Topics including identifying possible roots of the Exodus by Manfred Bietak, exploring the Exodus and the formation of the Northern Kingdom by Israel Finkelstein, understanding the role of nomadic polities in the Exodus story by Erez Ben Yosef, Emmanuel Anadi's prehistorian's approach to identifying Mount Sinai at the end of the early Bronze Age, supported by archaeological settlement pattern data analyses by Tali Erickson Guinea. We also heard from Chris McKinney on historical geographical approaches to locating Mount Sinai in the tradition of Anson Rainey, and Scott Stripling's very early historical dating of the Exodus according to Manetho. In Egyptologist Jim Hoffmeyer's paper, he explored the Egyptian sources for the serpent episode in Numbers 21, 6 through 9, and Thomas Schneider also examined Egyptian data for understanding Moses' name and the Exodus in the context of Egypt's civil war at the time of the collapse of the late Bronze Age civilizations. New approaches to studying the biblical text were kicked off by Israel Finkelstein in the archaeology session, who presented a new computer-assisted study to address the question of authorship of biblical text by employing statistical analyses that is particularly sensitive to deviations in word frequencies. Shlomo Dubnov showed the potential of AI for exploring the Exodus narrative in both modern and biblical literature. In our conference, biblical scholars have engaged with both the documentary hypothesis and complementary frameworks, reminding us that the text itself is a dynamic product of centuries of editing and reinterpretation. This is highlighted in the work of Bill Schneidewin, who explored the production of the Amarna tablets as a deliberate, literate process driven by scribal schools that crystallized in the monarchic period, contributing to the formation of the Exodus narrative. Philip Yu parsed out 4 possible routes out of Egypt based on the application of the documentary hypothesis. Our last session included Eli Assis's study of the inconsistencies in Exodus 1, 8 through 22, seen through duplications and inconsistencies in the writing of the narrative. Jonathan Winterman resurrected Jan Assmann, who participated in the first Exodus conference, and his notion of collective memory in the Exodus story. Christian Langer engaged the study of collective memory and the Egyptian deportation policies and data in the formation of the Exodus experience. And Caterina Moro explored the miracle babies in the Exodus tradition, not only of Moses. And Ron Hendel was the closer for our conference. I'm glad I paid you. Ron took us back to the Song of the Sea, perhaps one of the oldest poems in the Hebrew Bible, and the Exodus, one of the oldest poems in the Hebrew Bible, and he explored it through his approach to cultural memory in the formation of the Exodus narrative. What emerges from these diverse perspectives is not a singular truth, but a mosaic of possibilities. The Exodus narrative resists any easy characterization as history, as myth, or theology. It's all of these and more. Our discussions have highlighted the tension between the search for empirical evidence and the power of collective memory. As one of our speakers aptly noted, the Exodus is less about pinpointing a precise moment in time and more about understanding how a story of liberation and covenant continues to resonate across the millennia. I'm particularly struck by the innovative methodologies and methods we have achieved at the conference with the wonderful Exodus and Cyber-Archaeology exhibition. The application of quantitative methods in cyber-archaeology as pioneered by UCSD's Center for Cyber-Archaeology and Sustainability Lab has opened new vistas for interpreting ancient narratives. These tools do not replace traditional scholarship, but enrich it, allowing us to ask questions that were once unimaginable. Similarly, the dialogue between physical scientists and humanists has challenged us to rethink our assumptions about what constitutes evidence in the study of sacred texts. As a pioneer in cyber-archaeology, I view myself as a Moses figure standing atop Mount Nebo. I will never make it into the promised land of AI-embedded cyber-archaeology. Instead, Neil Smith is our Joshua, leading students into the new world of generative AI, data analytics, machine learning, and more to explore the Exodus and so many other topics. Our exhibition ends with the notion of next steps. For us at the Center for Cyber-Archaeology and Sustainability, this includes working closely with the University of Haifa to establish Israel's National Center for Marine Archaeology. This will serve as an international hub to explore the changing history and environments of the Mediterranean basin along its coast and under the sea, working with all the nations that border this crucible of civilization. We will help promote archaeodiplomacy. As we reflect on the past 2.5 days, I'm reminded of the words of Thomas Schneider, who, in summarizing our previous Exodus conference, emphasized the importance of letting divergent views coexist. This conference has embodied that ethos. We have not shied away from debate, whether over radiocarbon dating, hieroglyphic parallels, or the theological implications of so many topics. Yet, through these debates, we have forged a community of inquiry, one that respects the rigor of evidence and the richness of interpretation. To our speakers, thank you for your intellectual courage and generosity. To our attendees, thank you for your engaged questions and insights, which have pushed our discussions to new heights. And to the University of California, San Diego, and the Qualcomm Institute, thank you for making this gathering possible. Special thanks again to the QI team, Johnny Nguyen, Scott Blair, Mika Ono, Casey Polacek, Hector Bracho, Areli Alvarez, and all of Hector's production crew, photographer Hannah Tobias, who's been taking all our pictures, plus Neil Smith's dedicated undergraduate students and Gilad Steinberg. Thanks also to Max Carrion We also appreciate the National Geographic photographer Ken Garrett for providing us with all the photos on display today. Additional acknowledgments are posted outside the auditorium, and I want to thank my wife Alina again and confirm this is my last Exodus conference. Okay, so you all heard it, I promise. I didn't say other conferences, but no. Okay, finally, a reminder, we will be sending the speakers instructions from our publisher, Springer, on the formatting of your papers, the length, and other details next week. So you should plan on submitting your papers in about 3 months. And once we get your papers, you will get the rest of your honorarium. Okay, as we depart, I encourage each of us to carry forward the spirit of this conference, to embrace complexity, to bridge disciplines, and to continue asking how the Exodus narrative speaks to both the past and the present. The story of the Exodus is, at its core, the story of movement, of a people journeying toward freedom and purpose. May our work here inspire our own journeys of discovery wherever they may lead. Thank you very much, and safe travels home.